Well, good day. This is Mandy Smith, and I'm here with Todd Hunter. We are getting excited about the upcoming SheLeads Summit. I'm directing it this year for Missio Alliance. It's coming up here in October on the 28th. And Todd Hunter is going to be one of our plenary presenters, which I'm really excited about. Todd, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Mandy. Good morning to you, too. Well, I'm a long-term Southern California boy, was converted in the Jesus movement back in the 70s. And then since then, I've done lots of interesting things. I've had a great privileged life. I started one of the first Calvary chapels east of the Mississippi. I was later president of Vineyard Churches. I was president of Alpha USA. I helped to found a church planting foundation, and now I'm an Anglican bishop. Leading another church planting movement in America.
That's amazing. What a story. What an interesting variety of experience.
I have had a very interesting life, yes.
Yeah, I love it. I remember the first time I heard you speak was a few years ago, and we were talking about the future of theological training, and you just kind of cast a vision for what servant leadership is, and I think I told you on that day, I was in tears, and it was the kind of tears that you have when you listen to a symphony or just are struck by the beauty of something, because the vision you cast was so beautiful and so different from the mainstream that we're all caught in, that honestly has made me feel like I'm drowning sometimes of leadership culture in the world that's come into the church that just doesn't feel doable. And so I love that you cast that vision, and then I think you're going to be bringing some of that to us on October 28th at the SheLeads Summit, and sharing especially what that means for how men and women work together in the church, right?
Yes,
Tell us a little bit about what you're excited about sharing, or what you're excited for the day.
Well, I think it's a hugely important conversation on a lot of levels. First, it's really important in, well, you might say the world or culture or something where, increasingly it just doesn't make sense to people that men and women can't work together in the church. Now, that sounds maybe too black or white, and it kind of depends on the tradition you're in. In my tradition, they would say, well, of course women can work in the church and lead in the church. They just can't be in holy orders. They can't be priests or deacons. That in the more high church, I don't mean specifically Anglicans, because in our Anglican church in North America, we can do either. But if you think of just the high church in general, the issue seems to be around holy orders, or who can be a priest or deacon or not. And then in the evangelical world, they think of it differently. So maybe a woman can lead Sunday school, but she can't teach, or, in the big church or whatever. So I think in the church, this is a really big conversation. And I think it's a really big conversation in the world as well, or in the wider culture, because they look at what's happening in the church and just kind of raise their eyebrows and don't really get it. So I just think it's important that we be loving and humble, but clear.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Yeah, I can't wait to hear what you have to bring on that day, and the way that it's just going to contribute to this whole conversation that we're looking forward to. What do you hope that this kind of conversation brings about, either this one particular day or the broader conversation that's happening in the church?
Well, I don't come at this like a kind of a 60s liberal would, a 60s theological liberal or 70s liberal, for whom many of them, this was a social justice issue. I come out of not the liberal tradition, but out of the evangelical tradition, like the conservative evangelical tradition. So for me, this was all about learning to read the Bible in a different way. But having said that, though I'm not like a 60s social justice liberal, I am increasingly concerned about the harm that I see coming to women in this. So that feels to me, though, I don't want to reduce this to social justice, because that gets construed differently every 25 or 50 years and in every culture. So I'd rather talk about it like more humanly, if that makes sense, or more biblically, and just think that ladies, you ladies are like real live human beings and need to be cared for. And so it feels to me very much like maybe it's because I'm getting older, it feels very much like a pastoral care issue. Like I care for you, and more than like I'm trying to win some sort of social argument, if that makes sense.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
So for me, this at bottom is kind of an issue of the spirit. or sorry for the big word of pneumatology, meaning
No apologies.
just the person and work of the Spirit. And so if I see a human being who the Spirit has engifted and who the Spirit is called and who the Spirit's given the right temperament and the right station in life and all that to lead, well, then I want to facilitate that. But see, out of humanness, not out of gender.
Yes, yes. I love that. And I think it just opens our imaginations. It sets aside the way that we have talked about it for so long, which is us and them, my rights versus your rights. And it puts us at odds with one another instead of helping us dream about how we can do this together, which I hope and long for us to be doing on this day together.
Right.
Yeah, I love that vision. I think it's much more hopeful, and it's not about rights, but living out the Spirit. So I'm so excited that you're going to be a part of that with us. And actually, when we were deciding about the 3 plenary speakers, we thought it would be really important to have a man there, not so that you can make this legitimate, having a man speaking, but because I think some of the damage, and probably most of the women who come will have difficult experiences that may have happened from the things that men in the church have said.
Right.
And so for a man then to speak those words, that the kind of words that you just spoke, you have an opportunity to speak on behalf of men and also have an opportunity to speak to men in really new ways that I know will bring healing. And so I'm really excited that you'll be doing that with us.
Thank you. I think both of those angles are both important and really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm one of the bishops in the Anglican Church in North America who will ordain women to both the diaconate and to the priesthood. Some of my colleagues, for reasons of conscience, won't. I can honestly put my hand over my heart and say that I love them, I respect them, I understand where they're coming from. We just have very different views about this. But I only say that to say that of the women clergy that I have, which is pretty numerous, I mean, don't hold me to this, but I think we've got like 120 clergy, and maybe 20 or 25 or so of 30 maybe even are women. I've never really counted it up, which I think says something important. Because what I always say to our women is, and I mean this with my whole heart, I treat you best and with the most respect when I just treat you as my colleague. It doesn't matter that you happen to be a woman. Like, see, I feel like if I start singing you out because you're a woman, that almost like takes the conversation backwards.
Right.
Like you're just my colleague. You're called by the Spirit just like I am. We're co-ministers together with Christ. And so I treat you best when I just treat you like I would anybody else. That's very important to me. I feel like that's the most honoring thing I can do.
And all of this I've found, sorry?
No, it's just to say by action and words, you're just one of us. You're on the team.
Right. I know it's kind of old-fashioned language, but I keep finding myself using brother and sister kinds of terms.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I think it sets aside the way the world sees and we're being at odds with one another, and just the idea of us being at unity in the family, I know is going to bring healing to so many of the harmful ways that we've talked about this before. So
no, that's beautiful, and I think we do need to recover that language because if for nothing else, it keeps everything from being sexualized. I think two things we've worked against is, you're too young to know, but I still remember Bobby Riggs and that famous female tennis player. What was her name? Riggs? I can't remember. But in the 60s or 70s, there was this famous tennis match between a man and a woman. Because it was all out of this battle of the sexes.
Oh, interesting.
So in the 60s and 70s, we had this battle of the sexes. And then also, from the 60s sexual revolution, everything got sexualized. And I think it's part of the reason that this whole thing's been hard. But I think you're right, Mandy. If we can recover genuine brother-sisterness, then I can genuinely love you. And I can even say, I love you, and it doesn't have to mean something sexualized or whatever. It can be genuine brotherly sister love that the New Testament envisions. You're right. I think we've lost that.
And for us to work on this mission together, we have to be able to deal with the fact that we actually might come to like one another and find that kind of familiar feeling with one another without it going into that place. So.
My most cherished mentor was Dallas Willard. And Dallas defined love as will to the good of the other.
Mm.
And so I have to be able to see, like, no one would care if I said I will Mandy's good. But if I, as a man, say I love Mandy, then people go, what? Because
Right.
it's
It's been
seen.
twisted.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you're right, if we can get back to the brother-sister thing, do we cherish each other's good? You're right. We can do mission based on that.
Yeah. And our freedoms are interwoven, our callings are interwoven, and so
Yeah.
I know that there is healing to be found in all of this. Well, I'm so excited that we are part of this
Thank
together,
you.
and for all of those who are tuning in, I hope that you will consider joining us in Pasadena on October 28th in person. But if you can't make it there, we'll also be live streaming to regional venues all around the country. If you check out our website, we're continuing to add more live streaming venues all over the place. If you can't make it to one of those, we will also have the opportunity for you to just live stream wherever you are with a group of friends or by yourself, either on the actual day on the 28th of October, or the recording will also be available after the event as well if you aren't able to join us on the day. So please join this conversation. We can't wait to be a part of it with you.